Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome to the live stream, how to make a video for your business. The aim of this is that you can end up starting to record your very first video if you haven't already started creating video content for your business. The idea is that we're going to deal with how to create video with your phone. So it's nothing to do with really complicated equipment. And the whole point is it's a step-by-step guide. And I want you to, at the end, take action and feel empowered to start creating great quality video content for your business. Right, that's enough waffle from me. Let's get on with the presentation. So what do you need to make a video? Well, first up, you're obviously going to need a camera of some sort or other. That can be a phone. It can be a vlog camera, like I've got one here, you know, one of these little Sony type things. They're fantastic. They're about 650 quid. But also, obviously, you can then have a DSLR and you can go up to sort of bigger, sort of more flashy broadcast type cameras. But the point I want to make is actually I can guarantee, have got the wherewithal right now to start making video content if you wanted to, because most people, 99.9% of people, have mobile phones. They nowadays have got great quality cameras in. Most of them are at minimum are HD. And a lot of them nowadays are actually 4K cameras. So you've got what you need in terms of the camera piece of the puzzle. The next bit, obviously, that you need is light. Now, what I would suggest is, in terms of a starting point, is that we use daylight, we use available light, and don't get too mired into the world of artificial light. However, we will start talking in a following presentation about using basic lighting setups, so that if you haven't got access to if you haven't got access to daylight, then you can use artificial light, what kind of lights to use, that sort of goodness. The final thing, obviously, of this triplet of things you need for video is the sound, which is critical. Now, as a cameraman myself, it absolutely kills me every time I have to admit to you good people out there that actually it is all about the sound. Now, you can get away with slightly ropey visuals. You cannot absolutely get away with ropey sound. So it's critical that if the only thing you invest in over and above having your phone, the first thing I would advise you invest in is a decent quality microphone. Once people can hear you, they can engage with you and you can connect with them. Even if the picture isn't, you know, a million K and looking amazing like something out of Star Wars, that doesn't matter so much. But in order to connect with people, they must be able to hear you. And if they can't hear you, they will be off like a shot and they won't be back. So basically, the other things that you need to have in mind as well, obviously, as in terms of, you know, you've got the kit side of things sorted, which we've just seen. You then need to turn your attention to making sure you know what you're going to talk about, the topics, you know, don't waffle on, less is more, keeping it simple, bullet pointing your script so you know what you're going to talk about and what value you're going to impart to your audience. It's absolutely critical. And if you've ever seen any of my videos before, you know, I'm really sorry that I sound like a broken record, but it is absolutely critical to always lead with value. It's all about your audience. The videos, your video content, all revolves around you imparting value to your audience so that you're helping them achieve something. You're helping them resolve a problem, or you're answering a specific question that they've got. So if you do, and you have seen me before and you have heard me say that before, I apologize, but it's so important if you want to create decent quality video that really resonates with people. I know, you know, I'm sorry it can't be phrased any other way, but, you know, anyway, you'll get used to it. Audience, obviously, who are you talking to? What value? See, told you, what value are you giving them? You've always got to approach it from a with them, which is what's in it for me. So from the audience's perspective, right, we're all competing for people's attentions. The difference is nowadays, people's attention spans are minute. You've got 7 seconds to hook someone in on a video, and you've always got to earn the right to tell them the information you want to tell them, because people are busy. They don't owe you anything. At the end of the day, they'll come to a video of yours initially not knowing who you are, so they don't owe you the time of day. So you have to earn the right to tell them your story, to tell them your information, and then gradually build that relationship with them, when they then will, happily then hopefully allow you to then, spend 20 minutes or whatever it is telling them about and imparting some valuable information to them. But you have to demonstrate that you're giving them value, and it's worth them spending their time, investing their time with you. Because at the end of the day, there are a gazillion other things that they could be doing, and they're choosing to be with you to watch your video. So never forget that. Never take your audience for granted. What do you need kit-wise? So I've already talked about this, but you need a phone, minimum really 1080, which is high def HD, or a 4K phone. I mean, most phones nowadays are kind of 4K. You need a microphone. You must invest in a decent microphone. Please, please, please don't use the mics that are in the phones, because they pick up so much extraneous noise, and it's really hard to isolate, the speaker. And it's microphones you can pick up for 15, 20 quid, a decent one. If you're getting super posh, you can get one for 40 quid, which is amazing, those quality mics. It's not a massive investment, but it really is. At the end of the day, if you're creating video content with a view to raising your awareness or increasing inbound leads into your business, all of that activity, all the benefits that will bring to your business has a value to you, right? So it would be surely worth your while investing, therefore, in the video in some way or other. And obviously you're going to invest in terms of time, but also in terms of the money side of things. You need tools to do the job well. You don't, get carpenters turning up, or at least not carpenters that last 5 minutes in their job, turning up with one screwdriver. They have a range of tools to help them do the job they need to do. The same exact thing is true of creating video content. You need a certain level, and we're talking in this about a very basic entry level, nothing onerous in terms of monetary investment, a modest amount, but you do need to be prepared to invest in your equipment. And also, whilst we're at it, I would also say you need to invest in learning too. And that can come with, just spending time, allowing yourself to get 1% better with every upload and all the rest of it. You're not going to be amazing straight away. But yeah, so invest the time and critically invest the money in the right equipment, and also in the right learning as well. That was a slight tangent for which I apologize. You'll get used to that. Also, you need a means of stabilizing the phone, because at the end of the day, wobbly shots are really distracting. So something like a tripod, a gorilla pod, or a selfie stick would be fine. If you don't have any of that, then literally resting the phone on a stack of books or something like that, so it's not wobbling around, basically, is what we want. Obviously, we need light. And also, like we were saying just a second ago, you need clarity. You need to know what you're going to be saying, who you're saying it to. Really visualize the audience you're talking to, so that you're imparting useful information to them in a really concise fashion. And also, you need to understand why you're even doing this. What are the what's the aim of the video? What do you want the result of the video to be? That will have a massive impact on things like calls to action, what you'll ask people to do off the back of watching the video. So all of those things you need to bear in mind. So let's talk about lighting. This is super basic, and this is about using the big light in the sky. So first up, face a natural source of light, i.e. a window. Face into the light. Now here, I've got a window that is there, and I've got a fill light, which is an artificial light, coming from that direction. Now, if I didn't have that artificial light on, I would face my face straight into the light. Obviously, clearly I'd need to move the camera around so that you could see my face and I wasn't just prattling onto you in profile. You know, I mean, I do look, you know, quite dashing, I'm sure you'll agree, in the profile, but it's slightly less engaging, I'll give you that. So yeah, always face into the light, and then obviously the camera goes in front of you. And natural daylight is really flattering because obviously it wraps around your face, and it's, you know, it's just a very flattering light. The thing not to do, absolutely not to do, and we've seen this 1,000 times on Zoom calls and everything else, is not to have the brighter light behind you. So do not put yourself in front of a window and film that way, because otherwise you'll look like that, because effectively the camera will expose for the bright outside environment and you'll become an anonymous shadow that looks like they've done something naughty or in some kind of witness protection scheme. So look into the light. This is a nice little diagram which kind of hopefully will bring some clarity for you to what I'm talking about. You can see the little blue thing there is, imagine that's your you, and you either are looking straight into the green sunshine there through the window, or if you are going to use an artificial light, say like a softbox or a ring light, which we'll go on to talk about in the next video. I'll go through lots of kit ideas and stuff like that. So don't worry, we'll get to that. That is where you'd put the artificial light, and you'd look straight in so that the light is falling directly onto your face. The other thing to say as well is that you want to have as much separation between you and your background. Ideally, what you want in a frame, and this is assuming, by the way, that we are creating a talking head video. This is a video that you're going to shoot on your phone that may be like an intro video to your business, something like that. So we're not talking about, you know, shooting an interview with 40 people or creating some kind of whiz bang of music promo. I really am talking about building blocks here, like really starting small and then incrementally increasing the complexity of what we're talking about. Okay, so this is very much designed for a talking head. Imagine this is a video introducing your company. You could be talking about your why, you know, why you do what you do, how you do it, all of that kind of thing. Sort of an intro style video into your business. This is exactly the kind of setup that would work very well for that. So you need separation between you and the background. The whole point is that the focus should be on you. That's where the story is. Therefore, you should be the brightest thing in frame, firstly. So if you've got a bright background, which speaks to the point a couple of minutes ago, where you had a bright window. Imagine if I had a light at the back here that was really bright. The first thing your eye will go to is whatever is brightest in frame. So always make sure you are illuminated more in comparison to the other bits of the frame. There we are. Now we're on to talking about shadows. Okay, so you can see some examples of hideous shadows there. You need to be aware of where, and this is obviously goes for both when you're working with natural light, but also when you're introducing artificial light, because every light source that you introduce will introduce, obviously, physics, another range of shadows. So you need to be aware of that fact rather than just smashing in millions of different lights and hoping for the best. You'll then be chasing your tail, trying to eliminate all the shadows that you've introduced by introducing all these different points of light. So you just need to be aware of where the shadows are falling and therefore position your lights accordingly. Because hard shadows are really distracting. And again, it comes back to that point of you're wanting to give the viewer some really obvious cues as to who their attention should be focused on. Ideally, the person who's talking about what they're talking about. Anything extraneous, whether it be a weird shadow across the face, whether it be noises off because your microphone's not working properly, or you're using a rubbish mic, from the phone, and actually you can hear someone talking or clattering around in the background. Whatever it is, that will all distract from the main event, which is you, or should be you, communicating the value that you are wanting the audience to benefit from. The other thing as well is ceiling downlighters. They're an absolute nightmare. So if you're in a room where there's a window, but you forget to turn off the downlighters, they're very, very directional lights, as you know, and they will, if they hit your face, they'll create hot spots and also very hard shadows going down the face. They look very, very ugly. And obviously you'll have a very sort of pronounced area of light, and then next to it will be relatively dark. So in terms of exposure as well on the camera won't really know, you know, oh, do I expose for the light bit or the dark bit? It doesn't really know what it's doing. So my advice, turn all the downlighters off. You certainly won't regret that decision. Make sure, like I was saying, you're the brightest thing in the frame. And also, like we said before, separation to avoid hard shadows, like you can see in the bottom right there. That's obviously from a flash gun, but you get the idea. The nearer you are to a wall, the more likely you are to be getting a hard shadow. So step away from the background and keep that separation going, and your pictures will look the better for it. In the frame, let's talk some framing now. Look, so you've got a couple of ways you can skin this particular cat. As again, we're talking about an intro type video where it's you talking, or whoever it is talking in frame. Now, for example, at the moment, I am talking to you directly down the lens. That is a really, really good way of creating rapport with the audience. I'm having a conversation with you, right? So, you know, that's what it's a very hopefully relatable way, and hopefully, you know, it's a great way of communicating the information in a sort of relatively casual way, but you feel engaged. You feel like I'm talking to you directly. The other way of skinning this cat in terms of eyeline is, I mean, you'll see this a lot in TV actually, is when it's more of a formal sort of interview setup, in the sense of the person's looking off camera to a producer who's actually interviewing them. Now, you know, it doesn't matter which you prefer. I mean, I think personally speaking, if I was to do an intro video, I think I would err on the talking directly down the camera. Now, that does take practice, because it's not a natural thing to want to do, because let's be frank, at the moment, I'm talking to a weird little circle. What I am doing in my head, don't judge me for this, is I'm visualizing a person behind like I'm having a conversation, and that for me makes it much easier even to sort of relate to it, rather than it looking like a scary camera lens. It's something you need to practice, basically. I mean, I could do that, but it looks slightly more distant, and it's, you know, like I say, I think when we're talking about videos that are introducing you or raising awareness or trying to elicit trust and trying to build relationships with the audience, my sense would be, as a producer with my producer hat on, that I would rather you talk straight down the lens, I think. I mean, at the end of the day, it's completely, of course, it's up to you. It's an aesthetic decision. But anyway, so those are the two choices. Notice there, you've got grid lines. So the framing, those are the rules of, it's called the rule of thirds. You should always aim in both of those cases. You've got the eyes at the top third of the frame. Obviously the one on the left slightly wider, but that's still a very pleasing frame. Notice as well, the separation's good. There's no shadows on the background there. Also, it's uncluttered. It's a very simple shot, and the story is all about your man there, you know, explaining what he's explaining. And now if you look on the right-hand side, again, a really very nicely composed shot. You've got things in the background, but they're not distracting because they're actually out of focus. That's to do with a thing called depth of field. It's slightly techie. It's a blurry background. That is a thing that, you know, it depends on the lenses that you're using as to whether or not and how to create that effect. That's another video for another day. The point is, though, that you've got stuff in the background, but placed in such a way that it doesn't distract. In fact, I think personally, it adds to the flavor. It gives it a location. You get a sense of almost before he's spoken, you kind of know where they are. It gives you a really good sense of place. So in the frame, what we want to avoid is things like this. Eyeline is really, really important. Now you are situated slightly above my eyeline. that is a really complimentary angle. And I would suggest you always, look to mount the camera slightly above the level of your eyes. Always think about your background. What's in the background? Like we are talking just a second ago about that lovely chap there with the flowers and stuff. This is the complete opposite. And it just is so distracting. You don't know what's going on. You'll be trying to read what's in the background. It's not good. You're not going to be present. You are going to be super distracted. So we say no to up the nose nostril shots, and we say no to cluttered backgrounds where there may be rude books that people have put on the bookshelf behind you. It's all that sort of thing. Talking about eyelines. So this chap on the left, the camera imagine the computers where the camera is, that's way below the eye line. So it'll be an up the nose shot like we just saw, which we don't want to see. No one wants to see that. It's also, now, in some cases in drama, they might shoot below the eye line, but that is a dramatic conceit, because what it does is it makes the person you're shooting from below, they then appear dominant in frame. So the viewer feels, oh, slightly insignificant. Now, in drama, obviously, that's fine, but it's not necessarily the vibe you're going to go for if you're trying to introduce someone to your company, for example. It's not really saying the right thing, is it? So, and also under the eye line is a really not a flattering angle. And actually, in my day job, I work with a lot of people. I shoot interviews all the time. And what you find is people that are in showbiz will know automatically, and they'll have a best side, and they'll know if your camera is slightly too low, especially ladies. They will always ask you to go above the eye line because they understand that is the most flattering angle. So always think about the placement of your phone camera. Absolutely. Now this is on the eye line there, so it's on the level of the eyes, which is perfect. Now you can stack your phone, on a load of, if you've not got a tripod or a little kind of desktop tripod with a phone bracket, don't worry. Literally balance your phone on a load of books, but just make sure that the phone is above the eye line, because again, otherwise it just looks a little bit sloppy. And it just makes for comfortable viewing if you're slightly above or on the eye line. That is enough about all of that, I think. The other thing as well, like I said before, is wobbly shots. So you've got to keep it steady. If you can, invest in a tripod, desktop tripod. You can get desktop tripods which convert into selfie sticks, which are brilliant, and they retail for around about 45-50 pounds, which would be around about the 60 US dollars mark. But you know what, you can improvise. Look down below there, bottom left, you've got 2 bulldog clips and a little piece of card. That would be a perfect way of keeping your phone level. Absolutely. So yeah, like I said, if you've not got a tripod, use a stack of books, or lean the phone, or you can, lean the phone against, if you've got a laptop, open the screen up and then nestle the phone against the laptop screen and the keyboard pointing towards you, obviously. I would really, really urge you to invest in a tripod, if I'm honest. Gimbals, if you're doing lots of walk and talks, again, we'll sort of glance across that in this video. I'll do another video all about walk and talks and things like that, because it does have an implication in terms of sound and all of that kind of thing. And also, but the point being, if you want to do a walk and talk, then use something that's stabilized like a gimbal. Now you can get gimbals for mobile phones. DJI do them. There's lots of manufacturers that do them, but that's what you want to do. Don't just wander around with your phone bouncing around everywhere, because it really does look ropey. Selfie sticks will help as well. Also, if you are doing walk and talks and you invest in a camera, sort of like a vlogging camera, like the ZV-1, which is a Sony, some of those cameras have got stabilized chip blocks. So there's inbuilt stabilization. I digress. We are the Rocksteady crew. So there you go. That is what's called a Gorilla Pod. So that is kind of your entry level little desktop type tripod, which would work absolutely brilliantly. There is the selfie stick that converts into a desktop tripod, like you can see there. So that is one and the same product. So the Gorilla Pod on your left hand side, like I said before, £45, $55, and it's called a Telepod Mobile. These are both by Joby. And the Telepod Mobile is £55 or about $65, somewhere around that mark. Guys, I'll put the links to these products in the description below, so if you want to get hold of them, you can. I would really suggest that you do invest in one of those things, because it will just up the production level on your videos, which is what you're wanting. Big question obviously is portrait or landscape. Obviously, there's a massive plethora of different ratios, we call them. Now, I would always urge you to shoot, if you're shooting video for your website, so like a video intro, and that's what we're assuming you're shooting now, absolutely shoot it 16:9 full landscape, because you can always then crop it to make it into a 1:1, so long as you frame what's important in the center of your frame. So again, you come back to the rule of thirds. Know what you're shooting for, what you're going to be reversioning the video into, and make sure you frame accordingly. Now, in terms of the vertical formats, it depends where your videos are going to end up. I'm not saying never shoot in those, portrait modes, but obviously if you're shooting for a particular social platform, I mean, the confusion is that each social platform, some are happy to have landscape stuff and equally also 1:1 square and also vertical, depending on what element of the social platform you're uploading it to. So without getting into that, because that is an entire video on its own, which I will be doing, folks, later on, I would default to using full landscape if you're doing stuff just, B2B, or for your internal use, or for stuff on YouTube, anything that isn't, massively Instagram or Snapchat or one of those, sort of TikTok or one of those things. But anyway, like I say, I'm going to do a video on that in the future. Now, guys, I really, really hope that you're getting loads and loads of value from this. At this point, I'm going to do a real shameless shout out to, if you are getting value, definitely click the like button. That would be a huge help to me. And also, our channel is devoted to empowering businesses to get the most out of video marketing. And that means things like this, really allowing people to gain the knowledge and the confidence to go out there and create their own video content. Now, if that's something you're up for and it sounds like your cup of tea, then please do check out our YouTube channel. I'd love you to join in the community. The bit.ly link down there says it all, bit.ly business business-growth- with video. Also, if you want a business video guide, pop to the URL there, businessvideoguide.com, ping us your email details, and we will rush you a copy of our fabulous 20-page video business guide, or business video guide, depending on the way you want it. Let's crack on with the content. Camera to-do list. Is your lens clean? If it isn't, clean it. Clean it with a soft lens cloth like you get for cleaning your glasses. Do not use paper or anything abrasive at all, because if you scratch that lens, the lens will not work. It'll be scratched for life and it's good for nothing. Always check you've got, before you start filming on your phone, check you've got enough memory on it. And if you need to, clear some stuff off, have a bit of a spring clean, and then you can carry on recording and know that you're not going to have to stop midway through it. Also, we're going to go into this in a little bit more detail later, but take your phone off the automatic settings and go onto the manual settings. The reason I say this is because if you're in a situation where there's daylight, which is what we're talking about, and the sun suddenly goes behind a cloud, what you don't want is for the exposure to constantly being adjusted whilst you're on shot. You want to get to a situation where you are fixed in terms of exposure and it just stays there, and it'll either get lighter or brighter or darker depending on what the sun is deciding to do. Use the camera on the back. That's typically higher resolution than the selfie camera, but to be honest, If you really want to use the selfie camera, because let's have a look, here we are, here's a selfie camera. So, you know, use the one, that's your selfie one there. I would advise you use the back one there, just because it is typically higher resolution, although these days, really, they should both be HD. Now, some people really like to see themselves or want to watch what's going on the screen and use the screen as a monitor. So that's fine. But whatever you do, if you're doing that, make sure that your eye line isn't to the screen, because your eye line should always be at the camera, because that's where your audience live. Third-party camera apps. So I would pretty much always install a third-party camera app, just so you can really get under the bonnet of your camera in your phone and alter the settings as you want. Open Camera is free. It's really good. It's what I use on my Android device. The similar thing for the iOS Apple phones is Mavis, which is also free. There is also an app which costs $15, which is probably around sort of 13, 14 pounds UK, Filmic Pro. It is phenomenal. It is quite involved, so it might take you a while to get used to it, but it is fabulous. It's a really amazing app. And frankly, I cannot believe it's only $15, because the functionality that it gives you is staggering. In fact, they've shot films with it. There's been a few feature films shot on phones using Filmic Pro. So again, if you're wanting to invest a bit of cash in your in leveling up your video production, it's $15. It's what, probably 3 or 4 coffees at Starbucks or something like that. And, you know, and it's a one-time thing. It's not subscription. Bonus presentation tips. We always like that, don't we? Like I said before, look into the camera. That is where the people live. Now, if you are, you know, shooting on your phone, and sometimes, you know, the cameras are quite sort of, you know, they're quite sort of hard to see. In fact, you know, my one's like there, but it's black. It's a black thing against a black background. Not the most, you know, easy to pick out, especially if you're outside or you're being lit, you know, and it's bright sunshine. So top tip, use little mini post-it notes, or you can, you know, you've got those little markers that sometimes you can use in paperwork to say sign here type thing. Just a little thing like that stuck next to the camera is a great visual cue. So any time that you're doing your video, you know that is where your audience are. So there's no excuse not to talk to the camera. It just makes it much more engaging for everyone. Right, so up next, it comes to part 2, which will deal with the sound. We'll go a little bit more into lighting, and we'll go into locations. So definitely click the screen in a second and watch the second part, because that is the point at which you can run off after you've watched that one and start filming in anger, start creating your very own video content. There is the free YouTube resource. Go over there, stacks and stacks and stacks of videos, all about helping people like you, entrepreneurs and business owners like you, who want to get under the bonnet of video marketing and start creating content that will provide ROI and drive growth for your business. Please go and check it out. Businessvideoguide.com. Pop over there if you want the guide. We'll rush it to you. Just leave us your email address. That would be fantastic. Listen, I hope it's been of value. If it's been of value, smash that little old like. If you've got any questions, pop them in the comments and I will get back to you in terms of answers. Also, what I'd really like to know is what you're finding difficult in terms of creating video. What are the roadblocks you're coming across? What is stopping you from creating video content? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. That will allow us to then create content that is specifically answering your questions, and we're all about that. Ladies and gents, thanks for bearing with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Stick around for the next one. See you in a second. Ta-ta for now. Cheerio. Bye.